But welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the house barrage, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Be kind to the guys in this mess in the first place.
You can put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull. How's everybody doing today? We started out on what seemed like a very promising seam of bullshit yesterday as we watched members of the Harris campaign try to explain why the Harris campaign was such a fucking disaster without mentioning the G word or even acknowledging that maybe alienating the people whose votes you absolutely need in order to win might be a bad strategy. And it featured everybody's favorite guy, like the best guy ever, James Carville, who everyone in 2024 absolutely wants to hear what he has to say. And so that was looking kind of promising, but I got some other options on here too. And I got a short that I think I might start out with. To make another adjustment. That's not supposed to be on top. But yeah, it's another of everybody's favorite guys. Okay. Now where's that window? This is Oppose Marxist Legalism, and I'm really not sure what the hell we're talking about here, but I guess we're about to find out. Just a short to get us started out from everybody's favorite ideological leader. Hey, Adrien, bonsoir. Ça va? I finally worked out, now that I've actually got a chat widget rather than just using the restream chat window on my stream, that it is actually possible for me to always have the chat visible even when I'm full screening a video, so I'm very excited about that. That makes absolutely no real difference to you in chat, I would say. Well, except that I will see your stuff sooner, but it's just so much more convenient.
Jesus was healing people on the Sabbath. The local Jewish leaders confronted Jesus about it, and they said, "How dare you heal people on the Sabbath? One of the most important rules of Judaism is to observe the Sabbath and never..."
It's worth noting, I mean, it's very interesting. Of course, whenever Caleb is pointing a finger, there's usually a Jew on the other end. But actually, Jewish religious law has a whole specific rule around. There's an exception to literally all the commandments called pikuach nefesh or pikoich nefesh, depending on whether you're pronouncing it in Hebrew or pronouncing it in Yiddish. And what it means is if you're doing something that's going to save a life, you can give the other commandments a miss. In particular, the Sabbath. So
ever work on the Sabbath. So healing people on the Sabbath is unacceptable. And Jesus told the Hebrew scholars, he said, the Sabbath was created for man. Man was not created for the Sabbath. In addition to that, at one point, Jesus was confronted by the local Jewish leaders, and they asked him...
So, okay, this is called opposed Marxist legalism, and we're starting out with, like, Jesus' beef with local Jewish leaders, of course. Of fucking course.
Each of the 10 commandments was the most important. He said the most important commandments are to love your God with all your heart and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself.
Like, this is the first time I've seen him do full screening fucking Bible quotes. See, this is why his organization, his little cult, is called the Center for Political Innovation. Because he wanted to avoid actually ideologically committing in any way. And this way he can just kind of reinvent the ideology as he goes along, as indeed he does.
Self. And that is the essence of what the prophets of Judaism were saying. And it seems like the solid difference between the movement that was started by Jesus and the traditional religion of Judaism that existed in his day was that one was concerned about details. One was concerned about, observing the Sabbath.
This is, okay, wonderful. We get to hear Caleb Muppet's take on halachic law. I'm sure this is going to be great. But I can't help, hello, River Rune, I can't help just noticing, I mean, I know we're not supposed to be getting caught up with the details. Very Jewish thing I'm doing right now. But the title of this is called Oppose Marxist Legalism, and we're a fifth through it.
Circumcision, which of the letters of the law you followed, the law of Leviticus, the law of the Old Testament. Whereas the message of Jesus was to love one's neighbor as oneself and to honor and obey God, and that he was focused on the primary message, the essence of the teaching of the Hebrew prophets.
I mean, I just can't help just noticing, since we're getting this wonderful little fucking theological odyssey here from Caleb Muppet, the guy that everybody turns to for these things, I just can't help mentioning that actually one of the most revered Jewish religious scholars of all time also said exactly these things, like fucking Hillel, who unfortunately, I don't know enough about the man to know whether he would actually be impressed with the organization that currently bears his name. Well, I mean, he'd already, but on the other hand, he already had been leaning into the Christianity thing to some extent before this, although not to this extent.
While the Pharisees and the others of his time, they were focused on the details.
I can't help noticing, though, that he seems to be setting up, Marxism to be the Jewish thing. And that's a very interesting move for our anti-Semitic little guy, who's also an asshole to do. He's doing a Jewish Bolshevism here, Chad. I think that's what we're about to get.
Had forgotten the actual principles. They did not love their neighbors as themselves. They were not honoring God.
Well, have you met their neighbors? Maybe their neighbors were a pain in the ass.
They lost the essence. Well, that's the Marxist movement of today. For me, being a Marxist or a socialist or a communist, for me, it always meant opposing the global system of imperialism, where big banks and corporations dominate the world and make themselves rich by keeping the world poor.
See, I mean, this is what's interesting, because what he's saying is this is his distillation of the essence. And it's really interesting, as we've seen, as anyone who I think has watched him for more than 5 minutes has seen. What he does is he takes away anything that is liberating or revolutionary and just sort of squeezes that shit right out until we get one-party social democracy.
In addition to that, Marxism, to me, always meant that we should have a rationally organized economy so that human growth and creativity could be unleashed to even higher levels, and we could reach that ultimate goal of a stateless, classless world of vast abundance, the higher stage of communism. Now, I still believe in those things, but I no longer call myself a communist.
Oh, wow. Okay, chat. Yeah. We had heard, actually, I think it was Adria pointed this out yesterday, on yesterday's stream, that he was saying this. And apparently, I really picked the right short video to start out with, because this is him explaining it. And just coincidentally aligning, like, Marxism and communism and stuff with Jews in an unflattering way as well.
Communists overwhelmingly do not believe in these things. They
really? I would have
lost the essence of Marxism. They stand with the U.S. government against Russia and China.
Which communists are you talking about? Oh, I see. Weird choice of editing here. So I guess the idea is that if you're against Trump and the KKK and fascism and racism and bigotry, I mean, this is the PSL. Not a great organization. They have a tendency to suck up to cops and cover up for abusers. Those things go together quite well. But I just can't help thinking, there's nothing in here that says... there's nothing in here where they're saying, like, fuck Russia and China, we stand with the State Department.
They don't believe in economic growth. They don't believe...
Well, yeah, guess, you know, who somebody else didn't believe in economic growth? Yeah, like, communists in general, that's not a new thing. Like, the economic growth is not inherently a good thing unless you happen to be a capitalist.
A planned economy. But they claim that because they quote Marx, because they march around with red flags or whatever, that they are the real communists, and we, who are doing what is in the revolutionary essence of Marxism.
The revolutionary essence of Marxism is standing around in a small crowd of white people with American flags and sucking up to Trump. I'm so glad we have him to explain this to us.
Opposing imperialism.
The global imperialist system is oppressing people across...
Wow, you know, there's nothing... Did he consider maybe cropping in on that image so it didn't say pizza jerk above his head?
The planet, and it's also oppressing people right here.
Wow, I mean, look at the masses behind him.
We are against the imperialist system. We are for a new America where working families have what they need.
Wow, this is so much the essence of communism, where you just sort of yell into a megaphone in the rain and don't actually do anything.
Innovation is promoted beyond the rule of profiteers.
Support sending billions of taxpayer dollars to Nazis in Ukraine to start a nuclear war with Russia. China is not our enemy. China's not our enemy. Russia's not our enemy. We no more money for rich men's war.
Who needs our heroes? Who needs our heroes? Who needs our heroes?
Like, I mean, he's just reusing old footage. So the essence of communism is when you lie about Trump's role in Korea.
We want to see peace not just with North Korea, but with Russia, with China, with many countries around the world. It is outrageous that billions of dollars is being spent on prolonging the war in Ukraine when our people can't get relief in North Carolina.
They claim that we are not the real communists.
I wonder why. I mean, it could be that you mostly seem to think that fascism is communism?
Well, you know, after a while, the followers of Jesus Christ eventually decided to stop fighting to say that they were the true Jews and to just call themselves a new movement. They called themselves Christians in order to preserve what the Hebrew prophets had stood for, they had to break with this legalistic, phony movement.
Wow, I mean, he's really doing it here. He's doing a Strasse. That's what this is. This is Strasseism. This is a very Strasse thing to do. Where
that spoke in their name. And that's where we're at, right? In order to oppose imperialism and build the movement.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell he's building the movement. So it's such an impressive movement. I counted like 6 people.
That is desperately needed to oppose imperialism here in the United States. And
notice he never actually has any ideas of what to do about it other than follow him. Like, there's no actual plan here. For a guy who likes to talk about the importance of rational planning, he never actually has any steps. It's not like, it's just like, follow me and then maybe it'll be sorted.
In order to unleash human creative power and raise living standards so we can reach that ultimate goal of a stateless, classless world, we have to stop associating with communists. Because communists no longer believe in...
Motherfucker, you're not stopping associating with communists. Communists have, already rejected you. Yeah, I mean, God. Communists must feel just terrible that Caleb Maupin isn't showing up to their events, and that's right, they actually kick him out of their events. Like, this is an interesting way of announcing that you are jumping after already having been pushed.
That, and if you do believe in that, they will persecute you. The so-called communists of this world that are propped up by the old order.
Interesting, there he uses a picture of 2 women of color.
The Jewish leaders that persecuted Jesus were propped up by the Roman.
You know, he's so subtle. This juxtaposition, he knows how to work this juxtaposition subliminally. He does not hammer it home, like, so what you're saying, he's practically just saying, communists are controlled by the Jews.
Roman Empire, they will persecute you, right? There's a reason that the Communist Party USA has been set up, and that's to persecute people who believe in the genuine revolutionary essence of communism. There is a reason that certain people have...
the CPU... the thing is, if you didn't know what he actually stood for, that there is a way in which that isn't entirely wrong. CLR James was saying similar things back in the 40s about how basically they were, that the CPUSA were sucking up to Stalin and smearing communists who thought that maybe Stalin was not actually communism. But that's not what he's talking about. He's like, the problem is with communism is it's too communist. And also he's like very quickly associated his adversaries here with Jews.
Have come to dominate social media, and that is to persecute people who believe in the revolutionary essence of communism. So in order...
so the revolutionary essence of communism, which is why you're doing workplace you're not doing that. In fact, that you don't seem to do any kind of you just occasionally walk down the street with a fucking megaphone and some American flags.
To build the movement that this country needs to really oppose imperialism and to really unleash human growth and creativity,
given that we're talking about the imperialism central, the leading imperialist power, I would love to hear him explain how this is the movement that we need. What exactly, how is this going to oppose it? I would not be surprised if he does a General Turgidson.
We must break with communism. Because
or Bat Guano.
What we believe, which is the revolutionary essence of Marxism, they no longer believe, and they control and dominate the aesthetics of Marxism. They control all the...
I mean, it's nice to know that people who actually at least have some tolerable grasp on what communism is dominate the aesthetics. But, I mean, he doesn't even use the aesthetics. I mean, okay, at his, like, little fucking meetings, he does have, like, a Soviet flag in there. But other than that, I mean, it's like when he walks down the street, it's American flags, and absolutely no... You would absolutely have no idea that these jabronis pretend to be communists just looking at the way that they walk down the street.
They control and fight to own the communist aesthetic. We have no interest in owning spaces or aesthetics. We want to build a movement to do what needs to be done. So,
which is what? Like, I've been listening to this guy on stream for a few years now. I have literally never once heard him explain what needs to be done, according to him. It's just what we need to do is what needs to be done.
We're not communists anymore. We're innovationists.
I mean, it's funny to note that innovation, the verb to innovate, actually originally had a very dodgy connotation. Because it was like, it suggested somebody who was twisting things around and being dishonest and bullshitting. That was how that's what was innovation originally meant. You described somebody as an innovator, you were suggesting that they were twisting words around and trying to confuse people. And in this spirit, I mean, he really is a true innovationist.
And we're holding on to the revolutionary essence of Marxism.
This is the new book.
Okay, so there we go. That was some of the that was a 6-minute video. That was definitely a 6-minute video. So we could continue that thing with Vush that we were watching, where he was watching the horrible podcast from the Harris campaign about what went wrong. We got some Pim Tool stuff. We've got lying about Amsterdam. Let's see, we got some Weed Lord. We've got, this is actually a little bit older, Hinks and Jackal's MAGA Communist Manifesto, an interview he did apparently on the Chris Cuomo Project. Any particular preferences? I mean, I just can't get over just how openly anti-Semitic that was. Usually he's a little bit more careful about that. But this time he's like, he just keeps on having to hammer it home that the people he's opposing are like the Jewish leaders. And it's like, really? Are we doing this? Oh, God. Yeah, actually, it's funny that you mention a book. Because we've got another relatively short one, and it's him reading the introduction to his new book. That's another option we could go with. Actually, fuck it, why don't we? We can always get back to the Vush on the campaign disaster soon enough.
That I wrote, To the Marxists, Long Live Innovationism.
Wow, that's really impressive tome there. I mean, that's got to be at least 50 pages. I wonder if he got a proofreader this time.
You know, beautiful cover design.
Really?
And yeah, I wrote it. It's not that long. It's 114 pages.
Oh wow, that's longer than it looked.
Long. And you know, pretty big print. And
oh, okay. So He was padding it out to get it to 114 pages, is what he's saying. Okay, that'll be next.
Basically just kind of explains where we're at. So I'll read you the introduction. This text is being composed in the direct aftermath of the 2024 presidential elections. And what a strange...
Webster's dictionary defines election as...
political situation we find ourselves in. The bulk of the American people are tired of their living standards dropping amid inflation and are opposed to further involvement in foreign wars. They reject the political correctness imposed on them from a...
Okay. It's interesting how we just sort of went from people not being able to make ends meet and being pissed off about that to suddenly just sort of sneaking political correctness, very retro right-wing propaganda term that he's using there, in there.
Above, as well as the censorship exercised by tech monopolies.
Well, yeah, I mean, those are definitely... Those are definitely the main concerns of the day. It's the political correctness people are worried about. I mean, it's funny how he's just basically saying, I mean, now, this is what James Carville was starting to say when we were watching that shit yesterday, too.
Kamala Harris promised more of the same, while Trump beat his chest in support of various anti-establishment and pro-growth sentiments.
Such as?
Along with fear-mongering about immigrants and social conservatism.
Wait, okay. This is where commas are important. And this motherfucker wrote the thing. He if anyone should be able to decipher... Like, I guess we can take this as an authoritative read of that phrase. Because it sounds like he was saying Trump was fear-mongering about immigrants and also fear-mongering about social conservatism? Okay, go on.
Trump won by a landslide, and now the left...
No, he didn't. Yeah, I mean, see, this is the trouble. Like, this book must have gone to press, you know, less than a week after the election results were announced and before all the votes were counted. Trump did not win by a landslide. He actually seems to have won by the very smallest margin any winner of a presidential election has actually won by in the past 100 years. So he must have written this before the election result was even known, is where I'm getting at. And now he's in print, since he didn't, you know, wait to make sure.
Including the so-called Marxists' writhe in anger. We are in a bizarre political space where the very wars, censorship, austerity, and inflation that Trump voters rallied against are labeled communism and Marxism by those who oppose it.
Wait, what? Huh? The very wars and inflation that Trump voters supposedly voted against are labeled communism by those who oppose it. So, what? He's saying that Trump voters called these things communism? What, like, what, is that what he's saying? Or, like, this motherfucker does not have an editor, and it shows.
Rather than correcting them, this label is embraced by the bulk of the socialist and Marxist voices that have emerged over the last decade.
I can't wait to hear all of the examples that this book is totally going to have of, you know, socialists and communists saying what we need is more inflation and foreign wars. I'm sure that there will be plenty of quotes. I mean, just look at how thick that book is. It's that thick because of all the quotes and also because he's using an unusually large font size.
To dominate internet spaces, where the vast majority of these discussions are now had. They are proud contrarians, embracing the worst ideas ascribed to them by their right-wing opponents.
Really?
Their chat.
Yeah, again, I can't wait to read the examples. Yeah, I mean, nobody understands. He doesn't even seem to understand the fucking sentence structure.
While shouting, yes, but it's good. They gleefully align with the State Department and mainstream media like CNN in defense of wars.
I like how he makes a point of explaining that CNN is an example of mainstream media, because he assumes that his fucking readers are the most ignorant pricks on the planet.
Political repression, censorship, and declining living standards. They embrace the notion of degrowth, arguing we need to reduce consumption and the population as a moral necessity.
Again, that's not actually... I mean, he has shown so many times that he does not even understand the concept of degrowth. And when he wrote this book, he did not bother to improve the situation.
They loudly embrace the FBI and the CIA's attacks on the freedom of Americans they disagree with.
Yeah. I mean, us mainstream communists, we love the FBI and the CIA, right?
They provide cover for, and often actively applaud, the collaboration between social media companies and the state in actively censoring.
Yeah, I mean, you remember all the big rallies of, communists applauding the collusion between social media companies and the state. Like, he is writing this stuff for people who have not been exposed to literally any other discussion on the subject. That is clear. Like, this is just very clearly intended for people who have absolutely no point of reference, who this is the very first thing and maybe the last thing they will ever hear about it. Because if you knew even a little bit about any of the people he's, fucking subtweeting about in this introduction, you would know that this is just bullshit.
Not only their opponents' opinions, but even those they ostensibly agree with. Socialists and Marxists in our time.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we absolutely love it when opinions we agree with are censored.
Are not dissidents or providing people an alternative. In our current political landscape, socialism and communism is one of the main masks worn by the imperialist camp.
Is they that?
And its most shrill defenders. This text is part of a complete reinvention of the Center for Political Innovation.
Oh, so this is another reinvention. Because they already reinvented it after Sex Pest Gate, when he actually got kicked out of the original organization and had to refound it as a actually not as a non-profit. It's set up as a for-profit corporation in Oregon.
We exist to win, and that means understanding that the world has changed in the last century.
Winning means understanding that the world is different now than it was in 1924. Okay? Yeah, I don't think that he has any editors, but yeah, I mean, Peter Coffin would be. Peter Coffin's writing is about this bad.
Urgent need to adapt. The urgent need in our time is a block of anti-imperialists within U.S. society, mobilizing working people to assert their economic interests against the big monopolies.
Not against their bosses. Like, okay, what are their economic interests then? How are they asserting their economic interests? And why just against the big monopolies? Why aren't they asserting them against the people who are actually exploiting them directly, for example?
Our goal is a society where the banks, factories, and industries are organized to serve the public good and not the profits of a wealthy few. We want to
What's the
unleash
public
human
good,
creativity
Caleb?
and growth to new heights.
I love that this is a comprehensive reinvention, and he had to increase the font size to get up to 114 pages. Like, I mean, you talk about a comprehensive reinvention of any, like, actual ideological system of thought, and you're going to be getting into 300, 400 pages easy. Because you have to, like, define your concepts, and you have to make sense out of those concepts and explain how they interact and why it's important to take this fresh new approach to this. I mean, actually, I just got done working on the translation of a book. It's funny that, I mean, this is a weird tie-in. I didn't expect to be doing this, but Louis Althusser, after Stalin died, after the secret speech by Khrushchev, you know, was very active in the trying to push forward the reinvention of the Parti Communiste Français, the French Communist Party, and, you know, and it wasn't just one book to do this reinvention. I mean, it was like a whole fucking bookcase of books. Because he was going back to first principles and concepts and actually going back to thinkers from several hundred years prior in order to come up with different approaches to these things. But no, Caleb Muppet, I mean, he's he's highly efficient. 114 pages of large print.
Create vast abundance and eliminate poverty and scarcity. This book is composed as a message to the, quote, Marxists, any of whom might bother to read it.
So, it's composed as a message to people who you don't expect to read it.
It is written in their language as an answer.
It's written in English, chat.
To their concerns, primarily addressing why our beliefs, remaining the same, no longer.
You know, because, I mean, if there's one thing, all of us, all of us, you know, like, revolutionary leftists of various stripes have been worried about, is Caleb Maupin deserting us?
Why, despite our beliefs remaining the same,
come back,
no
Caleb!
Occupy their spaces or claim a place in their discourse. We do not want to be.
You have a place in our discourse, Caleb. We love to make fun of you. That's your place in our discourse.
Communists or Marxists anymore. Doing so would only hinder us from doing what urgently needs to be done. This may be
what urgently needs to be done, though? And how exactly are you the ones doing it? I mean, I guess what urgently needs to be done is 5 or 6 people. Yeah, hello, GGM. 5 or 6 people waving American flags in the middle of a rainy street in New York, while the you know, Comrade Pizza Jerk gives a little speech.
Grasp at first, but this text will explain why.
Pizza Jerk.
To those who care to learn. The response to this text and the preceding announcements are predictable. The first response...
Yeah, I mean, unlike the election result, which he didn't... He kind of whiffed that one.
Marxists, mainly a collection of internet fandoms, will be to...
Yeah, as opposed to what you've got.
Incorrectly claim, aha! They admit it! We were right all along! They're not Marxists, but secret Nazi...
You're not secret, though. Nobody says you're secret. It's right out there. If you wanted it to be a secret, you shouldn't have had the video of you going to a conference of French and Russian fascists, at which, like, what? It was like 10 years ago, and he was already saying, no, I'm not. He said he was not really a communist, he was actually a populist. He talked about how what he really loves is Hugh Long and goose stepping. I mean, if you wanted it to be a secret, Caleb, you really shouldn't have put that on your official YouTube channel.
Pedo rapist LaRouchists. We were right the whole time.
I mean, you are kind of LaRouchian. I like how he admits that. Pizza jork.
People of such mindset are worthless to engage with, and the majority...
Then why did you... Okay, they're worthless to engage with, but you supposedly wrote an entire book addressing their concerns. Which is it? Which is it? Are we worthless to engage with, or is this book dedicated to us? Because we are terribly concerned that Caleb might be deserting us.
The majority of self-identified Marxists in our time are just like them. They want anyone they are not directly affiliated with to be wrong, so that their particular family...
Well, no, we don't have to want you to be wrong, Caleb. It's just something you offer us for free. Naja, Caleb war früher mal also Mitglied einer irgendwie marxistisch-leninistischen Partei, Workers' World Party, so vor einem Jahrzehnt oder so. Naja, er tut gern so, als wäre er irgendwie Marxist, als würde er Marx verstehen, als hätte er Marx gelesen. Aber die Diskussion, wenn er ja darüber diskutiert, dann merkt man, dass er ja eigentlich nichts gecheckt hat.
Right. They don't want unity to defeat imperialism.
Yeah, fuck unity. Fuck unity. We want imperialism to beat unity.
They want to be entertained by their favorite internet personality.
We're being entertained by him right now.
And whatever beef they currently...
This is a... Oh god, he's getting in a sly dig at Thought Slime there. He so seriously resents Thought Slime for not just like completely and utterly exposing how full of shit he is, but being much more engaging and interesting and not being a total Riz vacuum.
Regarding the Center for Political Innovation, what we are actually doing, or what we truly believe, is totally irrelevant to them.
Oh, to them. I was going to say, I thought he was going to end that at totally irrelevant. Because we never see any evidence of him doing anything.
If we ever...
Also, das da ist sein Buch. Also, sein Pamphlet eigentlich.
...accomplish anything for a cause they claim to support, or say anything that they deem to be correct politically, it only makes them hate us even more, seeing us as competitors.
Nobody sees this guy as a competitor.
Rather than traditional fellow travelers. Despite
fellow travelers of whom, though?
The fact that such people have no interest in listening.
His whole thing is... The people that I ostensibly wrote this book for are worthless to engage and have no interest in listening. I'm listening, Caleb. Don't worry. I'm listening.
We still will state what will be obvious by the time this pamphlet concludes.
Wait, okay. That's just a dressed up way of saying that we will say the things that are in this book.
To any honest readers, our beliefs have not changed. We still want to defeat imperialism. We are still in favor of a rationally organized economy.
Which is just such a vague, like, what does rationally organized mean, though? Like, rationally organized on what principles, for what purposes, for in whose interest, by whom? That's the question. Like, if you ask pretty much everybody if they would like to have a rationally organized economy, I'm not talking about, people who are, like, communists or Marxists or any kind of revolutionary leftists or anything like that. I'm talking about literally everybody will tell you that that the way they want the economy organized is a rational way for the economy to be organized. Like, you ask Milton Friedman or Ayn Rand that, they'll say what they're doing is, their preferred way of organizing the economy is rational. That is a fucking meaningless thing to say. It's like saying we want good things.
To eliminate the irrationality of profits in command.
Now, notice, not eliminate the irrationality of profits. That would be a communism. No, yeah, just to eliminate the irrationality of profits in command. Like, so what he wants is a rational economy that eliminates irrationality. This is, I mean, it's so detailed. We finally, chat, we get a nice detailed exposition of what this jabroni actually stands for, and I am there for it.
We stand in solidarity with those across the world resisting imperialism and the new vibrant economy emerging around the world as a result of
resisting imperialism and the new vibrant economy. Motherfucker. Oh, first of all, check out the freeze frame if you haven't. I like the freeze frame. Seriously, like, if you want to do memes, meme that. That's that's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, please, somebody get a screenshot and drop that shit in the Discord. I want that. I want Caleb Maupin with that face. I don't know what anyone could do with it, but it seems like a useful thing to have. So he stands in solidarity with people who are against imperialism and the vibrant new economy. Like, he's reading this shit out loud. How is he not cringing? Because I do this, as a writer, I will often, read my stuff out loud when I'm trying to see, whether it tracks. And I cringe out of my head when I run across a sentence that, that reads like that. But he's reading it, and, well, I guess that's his facial expression upon reading that sentence and realizing this book went to print, and he didn't notice that fucking sentence was in there.
Of anti-colonial revolutions. To us, this is what being a communist...
Wait, they're against imperialism, the vibrant economy, and anti-colonial revolutions. Read your shit before you publish it.
Was always about. However, it is no longer about that for the overwhelming majority of communists in America. It is also no longer about that for the overwhelming majority of people who oppose the emerging low-wage police state and the march.
Emerging? Like, he keeps on saying that. He keeps on talking about the low-wage police state as if that's something off in the future. And it's interesting, he says that. I've never once seen this jabroni talk about Stop Cop City, talk about the really just off-the-charts repression that has been visited on the Stop Cop City movement. He's never showed any interest in that. He's talked about political prisoners, and it's always either APSP or Gadzi Kodzo, for fuck's sake, or it's the fascists from January 6th. Never said a word about Stop Cop City. Erwartet, dass alle ihn ernst nehmen. Und seine Erwartungen werden dauernd enttäuscht und deswegen sieht er immer so verstopft aus. Denn hat seit 5, 6 Jahren nicht mehr gekackt.
Toward war. There may be another layer of cynical, reactionary anti-communists who will read this text or see its existence and yet...
now we're on layers. He hasn't said anything about layers yet. Now all of a sudden his readers are a fucking cake.
...negative light, saying, so Caleb and his band of followers have decided to pretend not to be communists.
No. I mean, they're not pretending. They are authentically not being communists. That is some authenticity we can certainly acknowledge. Game recognizes game.
To trick a bunch of Trumpers into joining their movement.
Nobody would ever accuse him of tricking a bunch of anybody into joining their movement. I don't know if we can really call it that. But we'll call it a movement. Okay, Caleb. We'll make Caleb happy. We'll call it a movement. There's not been a bunch of anybody joining the thing.
What a dumb idea. Not falling for it, comrades.
Okay, I need that audio clip.
Well, this is...
I like how the only way that he can find somebody outside of his organization that would seriously claim that he's a communist, it's like, it's people he himself describes as reactionary anti-communists.
Fully incorrect. We have fundamental differences with...
Differences.
What calls itself communism in the Western world. And even with aspects of authentic Marxism-Leninism. We are not simply rebranding.
Okay. Now I'm curious. This is the first time. Usually, it's always seemed to me he's trying to sound like an ML, which is why it's always sort of amusing to watch MLs tell him to fuck off, which they pretty much invariably do. God, another claymation face. This motherfucker is like that, like Penny on Pee-wee's Playhouse, the little claymation short that they had. But like, I've never once heard him actually claim to have differences with whatever authentic Marxist-Leninist states are. And now I'm actually kind of fascinated. But I have a feeling, because I've suffered through one of his books before, actually a couple, that he's never going to come back to this.
Soviet ideology. The world has changed, and so has anti-imperialism globally. Anti-imperialist political forces in the United States should follow suit. Our differences make it clear.
It's follow suit in doing what, other than like joining the giant Lincoln Head Brigade?
That we should not associate with communism or contend for a spot within it. We need to
because nobody's offering you one.
Build something new and different. As will be explained below, we are holding on to the revolutionary essence of Marxism-Leninism. The revolutionary essence that communists discarded a long time ago.
Discarded? What motherfucker, where do you see a G in discarded? Did he write... Now I want to see. Show us the page, Caleb. I want to see, did you write discarded with a G?
Furthermore, we openly admit that certain aspects of the Marxist-Leninist worldview are fundamentally wrong.
For example?
And we have broken with them. We have deviated in a number of ways, as has the majority of communist-led governments and anti-imperialist forces around the world.
Is he going to give it? He's not even, like... I'm actually very curious about that. Like, the other things that I'm saying he gives no examples of, I know he's giving no examples because it's bullshit. But in this case, I'm actually really curious, and I have a feeling we're never going to hear about this again.
We gain nothing from pretending we are the true communists, when the majority...
When nobody fucking buys it.
Of forces we support no longer make this claim. Must be said that self-ID is not automatically reflective of one's actual beliefs.
Oh, wow. He managed to pack a transphobia into it. See, when he was, I mean, a minute ago, we were watching him, like, use anti-Semitism as a segue, basically. And now he's thrown transphobia in there. But yeah, I mean, it is true. Like, these motherfuckers identify as all sorts of ideologies that they're not.
Themselves a fascist and not know anything about what fascism actually means. To put forward a no true Scotsman argument about what communism really is and who is a real communist only serves to create...
This is a pet peeve of mine. People misuse the concept of no true Scotsman all the time. Okay, the point of a no true Scotsman argument is that beyond the established meaning of a term, of a category, you suddenly add in special characteristics that would not generally be considered to be part of the definition in order to say that this is not that thing. People use it all the time to attack someone who has said, this thing does not fit the definition of the thing we're talking about, therefore it is not that thing. But that's not a no true Scotsman argument, because if they're being consistent with the definition, it is not fallacious. Like, for example, if I say no true Scotsman is not connected to Scotland by residence, ancestry, sentiment, or nationality, there are probably other things I should list, then I'm not making a no true Scotsman argument, even though I've used the words no true Scotsman, because all I'm doing is rattling off the conventionally accepted definition of what a Scotsman would be.
Market segmentation in fandom building, as will be discussed more later, creating in-groups and out-groups to argue with and about. We want to put ourselves...
Yeah, he would never create in-groups and out-groups to argue with and about, except like in every fucking video.
Silly semantic games. Even if we could successfully win the argument and force our detractors to somehow acknowledge that we're the true communists.
Yeah, I like that he's admitting that's not going to happen.
Or the more authentic representatives of the legacy of Marxism-Leninism, what would be the point? Would this get us any closer to defeating imperialism? Or
I mean, nothing else you're doing does.
Rescuing our country from the current crisis? Being the real communists is not what we aspire to be. We aspire to change the world.
And in the next 105 pages, we will provide a detailed sketch of what we mean by that.
Teach people and help others realize that they can change the world as well. There is a great deal of nuance in this text.
Yeah, I'm sure there is, Caleb. You can tell because he had to tell us this.
These concepts are very complex.
God, he cannot talk about things without fucking condescending to people.
This text has been written for those in the Center for Political Innovation.
Yeah, I can tell.
Who come from the Marxist tradition, and for those outside the organization who have a foundation in Marxism and are trying to understand where we are coming from.
Well, not there. Not from there.
Honest readers will learn a lot. Not just about our beliefs, but about our exciting project to...
Okay, so you have to buy the book to find out. They have an exciting project, chat. I had no idea they had an exciting... I didn't know they had a project at all. But if you buy the book, you can find out what it is.
Build a truly revolutionary anti-imperialist movement in America. Read this text carefully.
God. I have read lots of introductions to lots of books. I mean, some that were good and others that weren't so much, but I have never once seen an introduction quite this insult. Read this text carefully. Like,
don't be afraid to read a section of what is being said several times.
What? This is like, who the fuck? That is the most. Don't be afraid to read the same section several times. Well, my writing may be too deep for you, and you should not be afraid to admit this.
This text was intentionally written to be concise.
It was written intentionally.
And to the point.
It was not accidentally written to be concise and to the point, which is like the opposite of being concise, because if you're being concise, you use one or the other of those words. You don't just use two words for the same basic idea. But it was intentionally written. He didn't write this by accident, chat.
So many key concepts have been densely packed into these paragraphs. And that is the introduction.
Jesus. Wow.
Jackson Hinkle. Automatic.
Okay, we still got a little bit less than a half an hour. So, let's see. God, that was the most I mean, that, even by fucking Caleb Muppet standards, I've never seen that level of condescension before. Not from him. That was like, holy fuck. Okay. So we could go back to the Vush thing that we were checking out. Oh, yeah, Adrian said something about the Amsterdam. Okay, I'm curious about this. This is from somebody called
the
Atheist Republic.
Jew hunt in Amsterdam.
And they call it the shocking Jew hunt in Amsterdam. Yeah, okay, so I was just making sure that I understand it correctly. Because, I mean, with the quotation marks around Jew hunt, they could have been debunking this, and then I would have been coming at it from the wrong angle, and actually it wouldn't be what I was looking to look at. But no, they are actually, like, buying into the absolute fucking lie about Amsterdam. And what's really remarkable about it is that everybody in the media and politics who has, claimed that this was a pogrom and all this shit, they did it well after, extensive video evidence and witness testimonies refuting that version, showing that actually it was the exact other way around, were widely available. Literally nobody who is actually who is coming out with this version in the media or the political class is doing it because they don't know better. They know better. They are just outright lying.
Amsterdam leaves the Netherlands shaken. Amsterdam was left shaken after a wave of brutal violence targeting Israeli soccer fans during a Europa League match between Ajax and Maccabi Tel Aviv escalated into what some called a Jew hunt, or what other people have titled a pogrom.
Yeah, wow. That's the entire spectrum of opinion, apparently. Like, I noticed that this description does not even mention that the racist hooligans with the genocidal chants who were, like, physically attacking all stuff that is extensively documented from the start. In fact, you can actually go back and look at their social media in the run-up to the thing, and they were talking about how they couldn't wait to beat the shit out of Arabs when they got to Amsterdam. And the other thing you have to know is that Ajax, the team they were playing against, is like the Dutch version of Tottenham Hotspurs, which is to say it is a team with a historically Jewish following. So if this were a Jew hunt, as these pricks like to claim, you would expect that Ajax supporters would have been targeted as well, rather than people just defending themselves against Maccabi hooligans.
Youths on scooters and e-bikes prowled the city, reportedly asking victims if they were Jewish or demanding to see passports before launching attacks.
Yeah, no evidence of this ever happening. This is just made up.
Videos captured scenes of young men wielding sticks and firecrackers with one...
young men. And see, this is hilarious because the footage she's talking about, there are two people who captured it. There was one by the name of Annette something or other, Annette de Graaf, and a young, like, 14-year-old video football journalist going by the name, what is his name? Bender. That's what it was. And the people with the sticks and shit, those were the hooligans. Those were the Maccabi hooligans, the Israeli hooligans. They masked up, they stole sticks and iron bars off of building sites, and wrecked a cab and a bunch of other shit.
An incident involving a tram vandalized and set ablaze in the city square.
Yeah.
The violence, described as Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof as shameful and unacceptable, resulted in over 20 injuries and 62 arrests, with 10...
Yeah, and like literally the only people who got arrested were the victims of the violence.
Israelis among those detained. Schoof drew a stark distinction, stating, quote, "There is a big difference between destroying things and hunting Jews. Nothing, absolutely nothing, can excuse the deliberate searching and hunting down of Jews."
Yeah, which literally did not happen. What did happen is that these guys, these hooligans, from the very start, from like in advance of this, were talking about hunting down, Dutch Arabs and attacking them, and then they went and did that, and it turned out that without air support, they're not that good at this.
Reports suggest that the attacks were fueled by social media incitement amidst heightened tensions over the Israel-Palestine conflict. King Wilhelm Alexander, reflecting on the Netherlands' Holocaust history, lamented, "We have failed the Jewish community of the Netherlands during during the Second World War, and last night we failed again."
I mean, what's interesting to note is that the Dutch Jewish community did have to cancel an event because of the violence of the hooligans. They were doing a commemoration of Kristallnacht, and they had to, because the hooligans disrupted it, they had to cancel it.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu compared the events to Kristallnacht, the notorious anti-Semitic pogrom, while calling for stronger measures against rising anti-Semitism in Europe. As scrutiny turned to European security members, the UEFA announced the relocation of future matches involving Israeli teams to neutral venues, highlighting the broader implications of
what neutral venues?
Violence for Israeli sports.
I mean, first of all, Israel's not in Europe. It should not be in UEFA. Second of all, Israel ought to have been kicked out of FIFA because they do have this habit of specifically targeting Palestinian footballers and giving them career-ending injuries. Like, I mean, amongst, apart from the genocide and all that stuff, like, specifically football-related, they do all sorts of absolutely fucked up things that ought to have gotten them kicked out of FIFA altogether, but there's money. FIFA doesn't give a shit about anything else.
Fans across the continent. Okay, so there is so much to unpack in this story, Armin. Should we
well, I mean, unpack is an interesting word for it. I mean, there's a lot to debunk because literally everything they said there was a lie. Oh, and I mean, when they refer to the people grabbing iron bars and stuff as being like as unidentified, that is a particularly deliberate lie, because if you watch the footage of them grabbing the iron bars, it is very clear who they are. They are Maccabi hooligans.
Get the little miniature video first and then dig into it? I think that might be a good idea.
Yes. So, yeah, and guys, I know I see your comments regarding, did the Israelis do this? What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, those comments, you should read them, I mean, because you're about to amplify a completely debunked hoax. And maybe those comments will help you avoid doing that.
They provoke, blah, blah, blah. We're going to, that's the whole point of this, okay? And this is a good thing that we waited for a week, so we have some, Susie will have...
Oh, if you waited for a week, you really have no excuse to be getting this wrong. You certainly have no excuse for putting shocking Jew hunt in the title, because if you waited for a week, then all the facts are out there. Oh, this is Annette de Graaf's footage, which, I mean, she actually... Because numerous news outlets, including apparently CBS Evening News, openly lied about her footage. And lied about what it depicted, and omitted her narrations explaining what was going on. she actually went on social media and called out all these news outlets that had used her footage and lied about it, and basically and demanded an apology, demanded a retraction, and a correction. And basically nobody did. I mean, Die Tagesschau in Germany gave the most ridiculously half-assed retraction I think I've ever seen, where on the one hand they admitted that the footage did not show attacks on Israelis, but they did not go as far as to admit that the footage was showing attacks by Israelis.
More takes on this, but let's watch this first.
Yeah, like, these are the hooligans. These are the Israeli hooligans.
Of multiple violent attacks in Amsterdam after a soccer match on Thursday night.
This is so fucking dishonest, because, like, he's taken this... Okay, this... the editors will have actually seen Annette de Graaf's footage. The whole thing. It includes her narration. They have no excuse for framing this in a way that makes it look like the people who are running through the streets in black and everything are anyone other than Israeli football hooligans, because that's who they fucking were.
In these videos, unverified by CBS News, one man cornered as his assailants shouted, "Free Palestine."
Free Palestine!
Wow. If you actually watch that, that wasn't what was going on. They weren't just shouting "Free Palestine." They were saying, okay, this is one of the hooligans, and they cornered him after he attacked them. And they said, we'll let you... And he starts going, I'll give you money. What do you want? What do you want? And he goes, well, no worries. We don't need money. We'll let you go if you just say "Free Palestine" into the camera. Palestine. After he was doing, like, racist attacks.
Palestine. Another seen in a canal. Another apparently unconscious kicked over.
I mean, this is such dishonest editing. Because the way they're doing this, you would think that the people who were shown in that first footage from Annette de Graaf running through the street in a group, locked up and everything, were the same people in this footage who are doing attacks. When the reality is, the people who are locked up and running in that first footage are the ones getting chucked into the canal and told that they're free to go if they just say "Free Palestine," after they fucked around and found out.
In what Dutch and Israeli leaders condemned as anti-Semitic.
Well, I mean, this is just... That is the level of dishonesty. Are they going to unpack any of this?
Sir Benjamin Netanyahu deployed several evacuation planes. Israeli Shahar Biton witnessed the attack. He's flying home today.
He's one of the football hooligans, it's worth noting. He didn't witness the attack. He was participating in it.
Tel Aviv.
And they all waited in groups of 20, 30, just waiting for us. It's not something that someone...
I mean, God... This is impressively dishonest.
One said, all right, let's just go out of the street and do something. They know exactly...
Okay, I want to know, are they going to continue...
No, I'm frankly, one of the things that I'm glad that I don't live in Europe because I don't have to deal with, like, English footballers. Those boys be crazy.
No, wait a second. Okay, are they going to debunk this at all? I don't think they're going to, but I want to give them the chance.
Like, again, and then they had to deploy like 4,000 police to go protect people at the next match in France.
I mean, one thing worth noting is you see in the footage that it has been so amply misrepresented and so knowingly misrepresented by major Western media that as the hooligans are grabbing iron bars and masking up and carrying out attacks and wrecking cabs and shit, there is one lone Amsterdam police car and it just drives past. Didn't do shit. Didn't do anything to stop them.
4,000 police? That's insane. So, I'm just very frustrated because it just always seems to come back to, oh, well, really, it's like the Jews' fault.
Well, no. You shouldn't be frustrated about that. You should be frustrated if you actually give a shit about, accuracy, that the media so comprehensively lied about that. Like, this footage, if they wanted to see this footage in full, it's on YouTube. You go to Eonet, and you can see it. You can look at Bender's channel, where he gives detailed narration as well. I mean, for a fucking 14-year-old kid, he is amazingly composed in a very dicey situation, where one of the hooligans even says, threatens him and tells him to turn off his microphone, turn off his camera for his own good, for his own safety.
Despite all other evidence. We know that football hooligans can be freaking assholes. I'm frankly, one of the things that I'm glad that I don't live in Europe because I don't have to deal with like English footballers. Those boys be crazy. We know this, but none of that excuses or explains the level of violence and targeted harassment. And there was addresses of where people are staying that was circulated around.
Because they're neo-Nazi hooligans, and what people do with neo-Nazi hooligans is make them uncomfortable, especially if they've gotten away with a major attack on your town.
So organized. And if someone is going to make it about the horrible things that the footballers are confirmed to
then they're not footballers, they're football hooligans. Footballers are the people on the pitch playing the game. They're rarely the ones actually starting the shit. It's the hooligans who do that. They're in the stands chanting genocidal shit about how, why school's out in Gaza, it's because we already killed all the kids. And, singing about, essaying Arabs and other wonderful things. And they were tearing down Palestinian flags and beating the shit out of people and beating the shit out of cabbies. And yeah, people eventually do defend themselves when that happens.
To have been saying, let's pretend for a moment that maybe it wasn't pre-planned. Maybe this did happen organically because of some provocation.
It was pre-planned. The hooligans planned this all out.
Because some Israeli footballers are saying some ethnically, hate-filled shit. Okay.
They were saying genocidal shit. In a country, it's worth noting, where that is a jailable offense. Like, those songs in themselves would have been cause to arrest them under Dutch law, under the law of pretty much all of Western Europe, actually. That's incite racial hatred. Under existing law, they could have been broken up for that alone. But no, that wasn't all they were doing. They were also beating people up, damaging property, and just generally they were doing a pogrom, and the community wasn't happy with them.
Let's take that on face value for a second.
We don't need to take it on face value, Susanna, because we got it on film. There's literally hours of fucking footage of all this stuff, and we've got witness testimony. You want to look at any of that? A week after this thing happened, all of this had been completely dissected. There is no excuse for using this. By that time, Anit Dechaf had called out all these media outlets who lied about her footage.
Okay, let's continue the line of argumentation a little bit more and see what that... Let's continue that line of argumentation.
Okay, let's continue the line of argumentation where these neo-Nazi hooligans were chanting genocidal shit that was which is a criminal offense in itself in the jurisdiction in which they did it. and were doing violence, and the cops did nothing, which we see on film. The cops just drive by. You know, they were arming themselves and attacking people, and they wrecked somebody's cab. And then the community decided to defend themselves. So, like, okay, we got that argument. We got that line of argument. How are you going to make the neo-Nazi hooligans in this the bad guys?
And see where it takes us. So basically, I don't know about you, I have been witnessing open ethnic provocation towards the Jewish people in my own city.
Really? Like what?
For over a year now. Like, I have been in across the world.
UK football hooligans are a thing of the past. Their chat says no, they aren't. when the UEFA Championships happened a few years ago in France, the English football hooligans absolutely fucking wrecked the place in big ass pitched battles with Russian hooligans. It was the disgrace, the national disgrace of the week. And it was hilarious because, I was in Wales at the time. And the Welsh fans, on the other hand, as the English fans are, like, wrecking entire areas of city centre in various French towns, the Welsh fans are, like, making friends all over France and getting invited to people's weddings and singing close harmony choruses and stuff. And then you turn over to the English fans and, oh, wow, they've set a cafe on fire.
We have been seeing, like, Khyber, like, let's kill the Jews, let's gas
Where have you been seeing this?
Jews. We've been seeing open ethnic hatred and provocation.
Where exactly? Where is this supposedly happening?
Across all the major cities around the world for over a year now.
No, we haven't. I mean, we just haven't.
We see anything mirroring the level of mass gang violence towards the people who were saying those ethnically hatred-fueled slogans.
That wasn't all they were doing. Like, this is so dishonest. Like, I'm glad they mentioned that they had done this, they'd waited a week. They had no excuse to be presenting it this way. If they did even elementary homework, they would know that all of this framing is just not, I mean, it's not just misleading. It is a lie. It is a very knowing and deliberate lie.
Towards the Jews. No, we didn't.
Well, we didn't see the things that she was just saying. I mean, she's, like, literally just claiming that people opposing the genocide in Palestine are engaged in gang violence. So this is not so much the Atheist Republic as the genocidal Zionist Republic. Good to know. But anyway, it is time to wrap this up for this week. Thank you to everyone who joined. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I will be back on Friday at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, and I look forward to seeing you then. Let me just drop the Discord link into the chat. For anyone who is not in the Discord now would like to be, that's where we can keep in touch in between streams. Okay. There we go. Another link spammer. So, okay.